be shown. I got one chance to show you what I got. I got one chance to show I'm confident or not. Self-evident reason, deductions and conclusions, and the fools are running away. It's not what you say, it's only what you can prove. You better watch your step, you better mind your P's and Q's. You got one chance, show me what you got. You got one chance to show you confident or not. Don't get caught in the matrix of all of these fakers. Society's spinning, and I'm just here living on the ground. Self-evident reason, deductions and conclusions, logically thinking, and the fools are running away. You're flipping over backwards to show me where you think you are. Your model dictates that you never see too far. Shrinking in the distance, you can do fuck all with an angle, and the fools are running away.
The level surface drops down from the horizontal plane at a rate of 8 inches times the distance in miles squared.
I'm not kidding.
Are we gonna keep on dividing? Are we gonna keep on fighting? Are we gonna keep on dividing? Well, are we gonna keep on fighting? Are we gonna keep on dividing? Are we gonna keep on fighting? Are we gonna keep on dividing? Well, sound level.
Morning, Dylan, or afternoon rather.
Left, and then I joined again the next day, I think.
Oh yeah, I noticed you joined.
Why did you leave? What was up with you?
Because I thought I was getting addicted to talking about level and horizontal for 3 hours.
It happens.
We had the same thought.
It happens. You know.
You've got addicted.
And I popped my brain when I tried to convince myself that sighting a triangle could still be curved. I thought I had to go away and think about it.
It can't though, Dawn, can it?
Yeah.
There's no way a
can't.
sighted triangle can be curved.
Oh.
That's why they call it line of sight.
But these guys that say we're on 3 mountains, we've sighted a triangle more than 180, I would now say, show me the distance measurements.
Gem Panda. That's Gem Panda, that.
If they show the mileage and they've all got a video driving to this point.
But that's what they do the mileage for. That's why they do these things. They do use trigonometry, supposedly, in order to use the length of the side of a triangle. Because you can only measure triangles and lengths and distances with a right angle triangle. Right, so from that angle that they are measuring, somehow they have to come up with a distance. Now, I'm not too sure how they do that, because I've never had an answer off anyone.
Well, I think they probably just Google the distance between the points and then trust Google Earth or the map.
So what are they taking the measurements for? The distances
That's what I mean.
There's
they're
no
pre-assuming it's a sphere, and then they're standing on 3 points and saying, look, we've measured it to be a sphere.
Yeah, but that's not what surveyors do. The whole point of them doing whatever they're doing when they're surveying is for triangulation purposes, right? You've heard of the triangulation and how they do that, right? So what they do is you lay down a baseline, big straight line, and that's your baseline, and then from that point you can know a measurement distance along that line, and then from each point at the end of that known distance you can take an angle measurement and then predict the point that's over there. Then you can go over to that point and then make another measurement, right? So you can just keep laying out triangles from those points and then putting them all together, which is I think that's what they do.
As skeptics, we have to see that they've done that, right, and not just taken the math off the globe model.
Even if you do that, though, the problem is that you only end up with a triangle with 180 degrees. Because that's what you've actually done.
That sounds like you're assuming now.
Well, how do you know then? Because when you triangulate all of these positions...
I'm saying we don't know. My whole argument about the sphere triangles was now reduced to if it was a sphere. If it is a sphere.
If?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
This triangular method is not evidence for me. I don't think they've done all the measurements. They've just taken the measurements off Google.
I'm saying it's you can't have a triangle without having 3 straight sides. Because you can't have an angle without having 2 straight sides.
So they're just LARPing out sphere triangles, but they haven't actually done a true distance measurement between the points.
Just triangulation. Trigonometrical, as they call it.
If it was like 3 high pieces of land and they could drive their truck up to each point, and then one of them drove from one point to the other, and we saw all the mileage and we trusted them, and we could take that as a distance and check it against the globe model. What
they do is they make a right angled triangle, I would presume, to an imagined baseline underneath them that comes out from a horizontal. So if you can imagine the vertical being a frame of reference and the horizontal, and you know the elevation you are, then you can make angular triangle. You can do distances up and down and all sorts, but you'd have to use geometry with straight lines.
That's what the guy in the chat earlier was trying to tell me. He said he's got the 2 points, Greenwich and Cambridge, and you can measure the distance between them, but then he pre-assumed the North Pole measurement, the distance to the North Pole based on the star. So he's pre-assuming the whole Northern Hemisphere then. The shape.
Yeah, I don't pre-assume anything. I just go off what the geometry tells us, and the geometry tells us that a triangle has 3 straight sides, and you can't measure a distance or anything without having that. I would say
that non-Euclid geometry tells us if we did a triangle on a curved surface, the surfaces would be curved and it would just become a 3-sided shape. But that's kind of what I was just arguing. It's a type of thought process to imagine shapes on curved surfaces.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's of no use. You can't use them for measuring. You can't use it.
I don't think it is of that good use. I mean, maybe
that's
for
what
them,
surveyors do, though.
Because they're fine with the first pre-assumption, taking the distances off other scientists and other surveyors. They're fine with that. So then for them, it is evidence because they've done the rest of it. But for us, it doesn't count, does it?
Yeah. For actual surveyors, though, in reality that do this in day to day, right? Those surveyors, for them, it is real because that's actually what they do. They use geometry to measure the land. That's the actual meaning of the word. They practice it. They measure the earth, the land.
I'm sure some of them would believe it's a globe as well, basically.
Yeah, but I bet most of them do now.
Yeah.
They believe that level curves and they can have triangles with more than 180 degrees because loads of people just keep saying it.
So they're still doing surveying, right? Would you say it's all wrong?
What do you mean? No, it
I'm
is.
saying that surveyors still get away with their jobs, even though they believe it's a globe.
No, they still use a horizontal level. Right, there's just a disjoint in the brain that just doesn't allow them to think. Because the only people around this particular area that we're in, they're the only ones that are really bothered about it being a globe. Nobody else gives a shit. They don't care. They're just living their lives. They don't ever have to think about it.
But that's kind
Surveyors
of my
use
point.
they do planar surveying of 250 square kilometers. They don't ever concern themselves with anything other than
State plane coordinates they have. Even when they, in the America, everyone has a state plane. So that's all the flat. In the UK, it's just a vertical change in height from sea level. That's it. Vertical is perpendicular to horizontal. Simple.
And Mr. Kozlowski wrote papers about if you use the state plane coordinate system, doing the old school with the theodolite, why it's not matching up to GPS. Imagine that.
Had to come over and link me to a timestamp in a hangout that he had, I guess, yesterday. And it says that a point that you can't have a line that's perpendicular to a point, right? But that's taking out of context what was actually being discussed.
You forgot I got that. Listen to this.
Had to come over and link me to a timestamp in a hangout that he had, I guess, yesterday. And it says that a point that you can't have a line that's perpendicular to a point, right? But that's taking out of context what was actually being discussed.
What? Was it using the word point wrong?
Is there any wonder Slice Barcane will not come and debate with anyone?
He's trying to get stuff perpendicular with a point.
Yeah. Yeah.
What difference does the context make when
I know,
it doesn't work?
Funny.
What's he call it? He's terrible.
It's ridiculous.
And because I really like the standard straight-sided triangles, I'm not going to call these curved three-sided shapes triangles. I'm agreeing with you guys.
Thank you. Like with
Three-sided shape.
Yeah,
Three-sided shape.
Yeah, that's a good one. And like along with that, you can't have an angle to a curve. That's just as ridiculous.
Yeah. When I was saying try and measure those angles because they're all 90, and you're putting a protractor to it, that's not a good way, is it?
Oh, here we go.
Do you have to imagine the 3D space and find the center of a sphere to measure the angles properly on a curve? Something like that. So you have to pre-assume the size of the sphere.
DP had one, right? It's like how would you imagine you measure a curve? How would you do that? And then we had another one. It's like, how would you actually describe a curve? To take it even more simple. Like what would be your best way for you to describe a curve to us?
Is it? I don't know. Yeah, it's hard.
It is, isn't it? I think I would come back after quite a lot of thought, and quite a lot of us here asking silly little questions like this. We come back to it. You need a radius. The only way to describe a curve is from a center point and the distance from that center point. That would describe that curve.
That's sort of what I was getting at a minute ago. Otherwise it's very vague. You have to just say, like a hill, like a bowl.
It's like everybody's been conditioned to this 8 inches times the distance in miles squared. Well, that doesn't describe a curve. That just describes a slope.
You can't say any line that's not the shortest distance between 2 points, because then it could be like a wiggle.
Yeah, you get stuck. It's like geometry is geometry because it's a truthful fact. It's like I keep saying, when they were making logic, then they became a way of expressing that logic in a way that couldn't be falsified. It was just like the only truth that was left at the end. There's no arguments, no nothing. It's like, that is the truth. That's what we end up calling proofs. And they just made a book of all of these, and that's Euclid's Elements. It's got Pythagorean theorem, it's got, you know, like an equilateral triangle.
Yeah, so they say a line that gradually deviates from straight.
No, it doesn't. There's no such thing of something that starts out straight and then stops being straight.
Well, you've got to imagine on the like infinite microscale at the beginning of the gradually.
Well, a point is that of which has no parts. So, like, that starts off with a nothing. That's why it's a logical system, right? You start off with nothing. It's perhaps even more biblical than the Bible, because it lays it all out with proofs. Start off with nothing and build upon everything with the next step. Even from the definitions. It's like people have especially been, I don't know, listen to this. I found it. Oh, fucking hell.
Academy, repeated at Plato's Academy, which had engraved above its door, Areometritos medeis eisito. Let no one inapt to geometry enter. This makes sense, since a student ignorant of geometry would also be ignorant of logic and thus to philosophy.
Ba-boom. I was thinking of putting that in the intro or something.
Yeah, that would be great. I could use a better voice, though.
I didn't mean something to that effect, didn't I? Sure I did.
Yeah, you did. It was your dudes with the door, wasn't it?
Ah, yeah.
Maybe you could get Dawn to read it.
Yeah.
Areometritos, something Italian.
Can you read that in, Dawn?
Repeated at Plato's Academy, which had engraved above.
Let's get that.
Can you speak it with the Italian accent?
If I had it in writing, I could try.
I'll put it in. Where should I put it? Debate discussion. I pay me Discord thingy service so we can do this for you guys, right? Can get bigger files uploaded. I just need to find it again now. Choose. Oh, only 11 megs, but I needed it. There you go.
Repeated at Plato's Academy, which had engraved above its door, Areometritos.
Sub to that channel. It's a good channel.
Yeah, he is. You are sub to him, or you have?
Yeah, I am. That's a cool saying as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
what's Plato's saying? If you don't know geometry, you're not coming in my house, my temple.
Yeah.
Don't let them in there.
His school.
Okay,
If you don't know geometry, you don't know logic.
Yeah.
And if you don't know logic, you don't know shit.
Yeah,
He was obsessed with geometry, wasn't he?
No, he was obsessed with people thinking. It was the thought process. And it was like, if you can't... But, I mean, I'm not too sure. Plato is a playwright. And you know what playwrights do? They script everything.
He's amazing and very eccentric, but I understand his point. If you don't understand this, you're not going to understand reality properly. Sort of.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to comprehend the thought process. Yeah. It's basically what we deal with here. It's like they do the geometry, but it's not the geometry for the geometry and the shapes and all of that. It's what it does to your brain and how the process gets you firing differently.
It's your noggin jogging.
That's a fella.
He sort of laid down the law, didn't he? With postulates. Did he write those?
Who?
Plato.
Plato?
Yeah. They Euclid.
Euclid does the geometry. Plato's a playwright, right?
This quote's about Plato, though, isn't it?
This is supposedly above Plato's academy door.
Yes, yeah, so even Plato is saying you have to know geometry, sort of thing.
Yeah, Plato was a student of Socrates.
Right.
Although Plato wrote about Socrates, nobody else did. So, could Socrates have been a figment of Plato's imagination?
Like a daddy figure.
Possible.
Well, I don't know. If you read the Republic, have you ever, Dawn?
The Republic.
Yeah.
So,
well, don't read it. Listen to it once when you have some time. It's about 3 or 4 hours. Man, that'll teach you all you need to know about how to manipulate people.
What is it about?
It's Plato telling the story of Socrates.
Okay.
Socrates is telling the story about justice. Well, it starts off like about justice. I don't want to give you too much.
I love audiobooks, so I'm going to look it up.
It's got the you've heard the cave, have you?
Yes, I love that. I love it.
The shadows in the cave, right? Well, that is in the Republic. That's one of the scenes within it.
Okay, yeah.
So it's definitely worth watching and listening to. Because I said this to Buster. I said I'd love to have a conversation with a few people once you've listened to the Republic. Because it's
I will do. I'm
fascinating.
Mystical shit.
Yeah.
But this is also the beginning of logic and maths, not just mystical stuff.
Well, it came before Plato. Would have came after Euclid. Euclid came after Pythagoras.
Yeah, I keep getting that muddled up. So it's a lot older than I'm thinking.
Yeah, Pythagoras. It's like 300 and something BC for Euclid, and then Pythagoras was before that. So
it all reminds me of masonry when we talk about the history of geometry.
Well,
the compass and the square and.
Pythagoras had a secret symbol that you had to do before you could get into his one, and it was way more occultish than.
Imagine the conversations when they're building the pyramids about geometry and stuff. How to make a level.
They flood the plane.
Yeah, sure. What would be involved? Sure, yeah.
I think we'll, I don't know, what do you reckon? Should I make a new intro? But I quite like the, are we going to keep on fighting? It's, because they're a load of Muppets, aren't they?
Have you got a soundboard so you can just play it every time someone doesn't know their geometry?
No, I can't, because it's hard work to actually get it piped through, isn't it, to Discord? We were thinking that. Remember back in the old days with the ice wall, they had a Discord feed that you could type something and then it would sound through the channel.
I've got a mini jack lead coming out of my headphones on my audio interface back into my PC standard input. So I can just change my mic to that, but it does mean I have to go in settings and change it to feed something through.
Oh, I couldn't be asked doing that. You can through Discord if you feed it through a channel, and everybody has to be listening to that particular channel to hear it.
I mean, I can just switch my mic input to my desktop and play stuff.
Audio Banana thingy can do it, Bev. That program.
Can it? I don't like doing audio programs since Tony came round here.
Yeah, I remember it screwed your system up last time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it is a difficult one to plumb audio through Discord.
It's not, even with voice, you end up with like multiple pseudo inputs and pseudo outputs. It got confusing when I tried.
Yeah, but that's, as far as I know, on Windows, that's a way to do it. There might be other ways.
Could you... You know the Black Swan, or the Black Swan, the Dark Horse that we've got going?
Yeah.
Could we sort of have that? I don't know whether there's like an extra intro or something. I'm just trying to work a way how to get that in.
Which thing do you mean?
That about Plato and his thing. Because it's the point that he says, and that makes sense because anybody ignorant of geometry would also be ignorant of logic, and which is true. I mean, that is the truth behind it, is they've hidden the logic so people will be stupid. You can be fooled so easily if you don't have a logical concept behind your thinking process.
Well, you're able to prove and demonstrate that with all the talks that go on here with the Globies, because all the mental shit that they come out with is clear indication that they've got no logic to work with.
Yeah, it's about, though, if we play that, though, it, that expresses it a bit more, doesn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Because I still think a lot of the time, even Dawn, right, that geometry isn't what you think it is. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not this Euclid, non-Euclid sort of thing. It's a way of proving something to yourself. I mean, even when you go back and you look at the geometry and all of that, in, what did he call it? Buster calls it the quadrivium or whatever. When they used to teach it, they still taught Euclidean geometry in the schools, in the highly religious schools, because when you learn the geometry, you know that there is a greater power that has set this, let's set the stage for you. There are rules that go by that can't be broken, and you can prove that to yourself. So it opened the mind up in the religious students of the olden days to allow for the concept of the greater something out there, like not knowing what, and then that within that the religion could sort of flow in and be put into the minds of children as well. So but they still taught it. Then something happened around, I don't know, 18 something, let's say 33, that they stopped using logic. They stopped teaching the logical part that came with the geometry. Because before the geometry, there is a logical thing that teaches you the basics of logic. And then that leads into geometry. And you link the logic to the geometry. And it sort of teaches you more. And then from the geometry, it links to mathematics and algebra and all of these sort of different things. So the the logic makes the geometry, and the geometry makes the mathematics and everything else from that. So they
started off with the trivium. The trivium taught the logic, rhetoric, and grammar. That was your basis, and then it went to what you're in the quadrivium, geometry, arithmetics. Yeah. So you had to have that trivium, logic, rhetoric, and grammar first. Yeah. It's neat.
And stop teaching the logic. People just can be fooled. You can believe things that are obviously impossible. If you lose that logic, you can be so easily fooled and defend it, you know, because of whatever education system. It doesn't really matter, does it? You call it an education system, but what have they been telling you?
Yeah, once you believe in magic or gravity, I mean, you know, logic's out the window.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, like, even in that Republic, Dawn, Plato talks about Socrates talks about when they're making these guardians, he said you have to test them against magic. You know, they have to be tested.
What do you mean by that?
Magic, it's wizardry. It's a real thing. Yeah.
It's against magic.
Yeah. So that they have to be tested about how easily they can be manipulated by people using the powers of persuasion and magic and
I see what you're saying,
influence.
To see if these really hold up.
Yeah, to see whether they are actually good enough
everyone fuck about and lie, see if they still hold up.
Yeah. See whether they can withhold the truth or whatever. Or, you know,
be where we are today.
Not be susceptible to it. I think that's what he says. So they are not susceptible to magic.
Yeah.
Because obviously then they'd be no good. But
I see.
When you know Plato, you know that they always tell you what they're actually doing.
I've never been a big maths fan, so it kind of scares me just to think about.
Maths isn't maths is a different thing with the numbers. The geometry is simple, and it proves itself. You don't need to be taught it. You you like practice it.
It don't just mean numbers. I mean all maths, but yeah.
Well, I say, like, I don't trust the maths, the numbers. The numbers can be manipulated by anyone.
Yeah, sure.
It could be like used to confuse and confuddle and turned into statistics. You can say whatever you want with numbers, but you can't with geometry. You literally can't do that.
Not if someone's watching you go through it, the process. You can just turn up and say, "Yeah, I did some geometry. These are the results." And lie, can you?
I don't know. Like, you mean surveying?
Just pretend. If someone trusted you that you've done the geometry, you could tell them any numbers, and they would just trust you if they haven't done it.
Well, if you were in charge of a building plot and you had the building and the plans and all of that, like it would be provable whether you'd done it correctly.
I agree.
Or not.
Practically, if someone sees it happens, it's more demonstrable.
So it would be provable. Like your work will be checked, definitely.
You could say a perpendicular is always 90, and then go out and show people.
Yeah.
This is how we prove it's perpendicular.
A right angle is a right angle.
It.
It's called a right angle. If it's not a right angle, then it's just not a right angle.
But you could teach kids in school that it's 85 degrees, couldn't you? And unless they ever go and do it, they'll probably believe you.
Yeah. Or what you could do is you could not tell anybody anything other than it is 90 degrees and the straight lines, and then just sort of let them imagine that they have to defend a ball, and they'll do everything that you never taught them to on their own. And I think that's where we're at the minute. People with no proof for anything will defend something that goes against what they know is true for no apparent reason.
I'd like to homeschool my girlfriend's kids, but I don't think I'd do a better job than school. I'd be more truthful. I don't think I've got the time and effort to teach them all the different varied stuff.
Well, they've changed maths. You're not allowed to teach them. Whatever way you had for adding numbers up and doing all of that is changed. So you're no good. Literally.
Take them out of school and teach them yourself. You can do it how you want.
Yeah. But they've already been taught this other way.
Yeah. So you'd have to indoctrinate them.
Yeah.
What's the way they're taught now then?
Oh, Common Core. Oh, it's fucking mental. I can't even do it. My head won't wrap it round because when I lost my memory and all of that, I had to learn to do it all myself.
There's a really funny video where there's a funny video where they do it, and the guy does the old school against the teacher doing the Common Core, and the guy does the problem in about 10 seconds. Yeah. Make some tea, make a sandwich.
On massive multiplications, I assume it helps because you can look back at your work. It is slower and unnecessary way.
Yeah, but my lad came home from school and I tried to help him with a bit of maths, and he'd gone into school and told the teacher, and the teacher had told him that they don't do it like that anymore.
Yeah, this is how we do it now, Dad.
Yeah. So from then on, obviously he's autistic. From then on, everything, we don't do it like that anymore. It took years for me to be able to try and help him with anything, because the teacher had told him they just literally don't do it like that anymore. That's no good. That's old. That's the old way of doing things. But
I do it that way though. It's weird. It's I'm not sure what they teach exactly in school, but if you say 530 times 9, you just imagine 530 times 10, which would be 5,300, and you subtract the 530.
Yeah.
And you got. That's the way I do it.
That's logic maths, right? You might be the same as me, Cleary. I had to sort of teach myself. And that was the way I did it. Is it close to a 5 or a 10? Because I'll do that then do either a subtraction or a minus of 2 or 1.
And it's real fast and accurate. Yeah.
And you can sort of estimate it really quickly. You can do all of that sort of stuff. You just sort of... Yeah, but that was the sort of stuff I was trying to teach him. And the teacher said, nah, we don't do that sort of stuff anymore. And it's but that's a logical process of, just to do it quickly to get you an estimate. Because I always thought whenever you do maths, you need to check, right? You need 2 ways to do it to be able to verify that you've done it correctly the first way. And they don't teach that anymore. But again, that's sort of the first of all, step 1, what they do is they stop teaching logic and sort of imagine the sort of stuff that they teach you imagination. And then they stop teaching the maths. And what that does is it puts a barrier up in between the people that go to college and the people that don't. So the people that don't go to college imagine that they're just not bright enough because the school process has left them down, and they don't really understand it, and they're a bit confused, and they didn't bother going to college, so they go and do things like plumbing and brickying and work in shops and checkouts and just do mundane stuff, everyday stuff. The other people go to college and continue this education that keeps telling them things, that they're way brighter than these other people. Much brighter than them. That's why they're there, getting taught this stuff by these education people.
Yep.
And then That's it. Once they come out, they don't know anything about real life because they've just been taught everything to imagine that they're much cleverer than these other people, whilst the other people have just been living life, learning lessons, logic, practical logic. They've been using it daily. They've all been practicing the scientific method in everyday life. And all of these other people at college have just been taught how to imagine things, never actually having any practical use. And then you end up with people that are actually done things, saying to somebody, nah, that's not the way you do it. And then these people go, oh, yes, it is. I've read a book. Like Rumpus.
My school was shit. Science was shit. In our science class, once they got out some Bunsen burners and said we're going to do some science, but because there was 3 children probably out of 30 that were totally insane, that used to piss the teacher off enough that he brought a video camera in, one of those huge old ones, and set it up on top of a counter to film us. So then we knew we were being spied on, so that we weren't naughty. So everyone then turned into a game to be as naughty as possible in front of the camera. I mean, I can't remember ever doing real science, ever.
Yeah. So what is science?
I think it should mean practical testing of stuff.
The only real science I can remember doing at school is in an onion. Between each layer of the onion, there's like a clear, transparent, translucent skin, like a film. And
That's the best bit.
What did you learn about it?
It's cookery.
No, it was a biology lesson. No, yeah, I think it was biology lesson. And you look at all the cells
cuisine
under a microscope, and you add some iodine, and it highlights all the cell walls, and you can see all the.
That is quite cool.
Yeah, we had quite good science labs at the school I went to.
You see it in the microcosm, and you think, oh wow, there's loads going on, even what my eyes can't see.
Yeah.
And it's built up. It's got a structure.
But that leads you to believe that everything that's in the books then is true, doesn't it? Because you can see that little bit of it, and that equates with what you're shown in the books. And then when you see the books and it shows you stuff that you can't see.
Yeah, 3 pages later, you're just away with the fairies. Believe me.
Yeah, exactly. And because you can't see it, but what you have seen equates to what you're now looking at in the book, then you think that what you can't see that is in the book.
Men are from monkeys, and well, I already saw the inside of an onion, so I mean, probably from monkeys.
Yeah. So it works in their favour. Yeah, I did enjoy science at school.
I like that meme, DP.
Sorry?
I like that, playing parallel model.
I do vaguely remember a circuit boards lesson. Connect the different things. Say, oh, this is a gate, this is a light, this is a buzzer, this is positive, this is negative.
That's computer science, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not really science of the natural world. It's electricity science, I guess.
Like CDT.
Yeah, there's education for the general public, but then there's higher knowledge that I guess most people never get to see.
Yeah. I got higher knowledge.
I think what they do within the process is they teach you all of that stuff at school, and then the ones that go on to this other whatever, I think they end up saying, well, we didn't, that stuff you got told earlier, it's not actually like that.
Yeah,
this is how it is. And then from then on in, like we're going to let you into the secret. Since you're here, at this higher education learning, we're going to let you into the secret that normal people don't have.
And that happens at like Skull and Bones, the higher levels, but you're saying just in education classes.
It does.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. No, it definitely does. I'm telling you. I've been there. I've like teacher training, right, at university in Leeds. And like when you go in there, right, and they're starting doing the teaching and they
forget about all that skill stuff. We're now going to learn properly.
I'll give you like a quick example, right? Is the sort of way they sort of portray it is like we're going to do a thing now in like craft design technology. It was that I was sort of going to be the teacher, or in that sort of respect. But so in that they're teaching us about advertisements and like how you would go through the process from designing it to processing and all of that sort of stuff. And then
development.
Yeah, they say in the advertisement mode, right, there is 4 different types of character. Now the advertisement people know this, so they know to design and put yourself. So they're sort of telling you that from this point on, you're one of the ones that are initiated to be able to judge, and you split other people up into little groups.
Yeah, I think I believe you that it is. They do sort of have that vibe.
Yeah, it's definitely, that's the way the education system, it teaches you to think like that. And that's why the people that are in colleges that have been educated are like, there's not much practical. There's a lot of wordplay, wizardry, spell casting happens in those places when you get together with a bit of groupthink and a higher power teaching you things that you have to remember. There's a lot of Harry Potter about it when you're actually in it as well. And if you're not aware
sure.
of how or what's actually occurring, then it can be a really freaky place.
Probably what you're saying is even more true in like a physics university than just a standard university or an art college.
It's any education of anything. It doesn't really matter.
History and physics, especially, I reckon that's really like that.
Yeah.
You're one of the gang now, so learn how to explain
mathematics as well. Theoretical. Anything that it says theoretical, that their minds are going to be able to they're going to be pushed, right? So if your brain is going to be pushed into theoretical places, to me, that's all that's needed for you to be able to make something real. Just the thought of it.
It even gets me, like, after I left and looked a bit into it before I gave up, I found out that there's hardly any practical use for non-Euclidean geometry. So I was thinking it's mostly theory, but I've finding, it's nearly all just theory, like 99%, and I still haven't found a good example of a real world example.
Yeah.
So they can sneak stuff, even when you know it's called a theory, you still walk around acting like it might be real.
Yeah, once you put the concept in your mind, then it's in there, right? I mean, that's the only place that certain things ever exist. And
like a religion.
Yeah, and some people make them real in their mind. And
that's very powerful.
It's so real that it's even more real than reality. It's stuff that you can prove to somebody. If they've got a concept in the mind of something, then
if a man is convinced of a thing, it can be quite alluring, can't it, for other men?
Because, do you know about me, Dawn? Because when I was
not really.
When I was 7 or 8, I was in a car crash with my mum. She died, and
Right.
I was awake, conscious, but have no memory of it. So
Okay, yeah.
the way I've sort of got it in my head is that I must have seen something so traumatic
Yes, I
that
agree.
a block has come down, and there's nothing, literally nothing from before that.
No, when you look, it's
maybe
like you've wiped it.
yeah.
Fully
So
wiped it.
so when there may be like a picture has reminded me of a moment or something, but
So
there's
now
there's
you'll start
nothing there.
imagining it to replace what you
No, I don't.
unremembered
No,
sort of
no.
thing.
Well, I don't
Maybe.
know. I don't really think about it, to be honest. You know, if
So what's your conclusion from that? That you managed to wipe your own memory, maybe?
well, no, I'd say like something must be so traumatic that my brain just doesn't want me to see it, and I'm willing to trust myself enough to not bother looking into it, right?
Yeah, I'd say that must be linked to spirit and divine. Like,
Okay, but
I mean, it could just be your brain chemicals are
Yeah,
that clever
from
and
that,
intelligent.
though-
They managed to block that little section, but I think maybe someone came down and helped you block it or something like that.
yeah, whatever. So the thing we learn most, or I've learned most through all of this, is like you're talking to different people. As you go through the cognitive process of when you're growing up, right, your brain goes through a few different stages,
Yeah, sure.
right? So up to the age of 7 or 8, your brain is in like I don't know whether what do you call it? Is it a gamma state or a
I've read loads of occult versions of this, but I don't know the science version.
it's the one where you know, like, imagine that you're gonna get a boost start in life, and your parents are going to be bringing you up, so there's no need for you to filter any information. Everything that you are taught from 0 to 7 or 8 until your brain goes through this process is taken in as
Innocent, and you
trust.
just take it.
Yeah.
Trust.
It's like you're hypnotized. You're in a, you know, your brainwave pattern is in that form.
I've heard Robert Anton Wilson go through these.
Yeah, and then at that point, the 7 or 8, you start to process the information and start to judge.
Yeah.
Right.
You start realizing that something could be negative. Or
Yeah, so from that
Really
point
bad
on,
thing.
you have to judge and decide for yourself. It's like a cognitive process that you
realize your vulnerability, sort of thing.
maybe. Yeah,
Your
I don't know.
consciousness starts to defend your subconscious from programming at that point.
Yeah.
You have a conscious filter at that point.
Yeah.
Right. So, from what I've sort of learned is that I don't have a model, never have had a model, and the way I've been brought up is to sort of, I've had to reason with myself to justify just about everything. So I've always thought I was a little bit weird. Right, because I don't. People say you're, you know, perhaps autistic or whatever. I don't know, but I put it down to the fact that even when I did maths, I had to sort of make my own logic way to understand it. And so logic is easy.
Lack of trust, so you have to check something for yourself.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, I have to justify it, and I would never. I'd say such and such a person said this. You know, I'd never say, you know, this is the way it is, because I've got no. I can't verify it.
Well, that's cool to have that, because I only got that when I was like 37, or a year ago or 2 years ago.
But yeah, so. Yeah, it's a process that you have to put yourself through, I think, to be able to verify anything.
Yeah.
And it sometimes the will, or the, you know, the way people will defend what they know, it's almost as if that childhood, like they don't ever get out of that little 7-year-old child.
Because they're protecting, like, Narnia fantasy world.
I think so. I think so.
Your flat Earth is coming in and attacking someone's logic, isn't it?
It's not
hang on a
flat
minute.
Earth, though, is it?
Why
This is
should we
just
trust that?
reality. It's just...
Yeah, okay. It's like reality is biting science in the ass through people and flat Earth and science questions.
Pseudo-science. There's nothing wrong with science. Science is a good way of
The
doing
scientists
stuff.
asses.
Yeah, the ones that consider themselves, like Professor Phil.
So what do you
Childish.
think? But your accident might have fucked you and did something to your brain at that point of changing from 7 into the next stage.
I lost all the models. I lost everything that everybody else relies on, it seems. Because I literally don't... when
you realised a car can just crash into you at any second. You have to, like, question everything again or something like that.
No, I mean, like, where... literally, I was...
You what you were taught.
I was just an average bloke before. At least I thought I was just an average bloke. Right? That I was out with my lad and we were just doing stuff and we were taking pictures and all of that. And we was like, wow, look at that. Woo, 85 miles. And then somebody, bam, you're a child abuser. Like, for what? For level is horizontal. And it's like, fuck off. Of course it has to be that. It's already horizontal. And it's like, why are they doing that? And it's like, well, it is. And they go, that means flat Earth. It's like, well, that means it is flat Earth then. I don't know. That's just reality. I'm sorry. There's no model there. There's only reality.
Than you. I don't believe in vaccines or school or things like this. So people might say I'd be a child abuser. I'd tell my child magic's real and you can be a witch, and I'd say Satan's not a bad guy and stuff like this. And some people might say I'm a child abuser.
Yeah, it's not the fact that it's the hatred of the that they have of something.
Yeah.
That causes them to use that thing. So before I was a nobody.
They're terrified. If you have 2 children and both of them grow up to be flat earthers, you've multiplied. So they're terrified that it could grow and grow and grow, and eventually they'll be persecuted for having silly beliefs.
Oh. I don't know why anybody would persecute anybody, but I mean,
because this is their reality, isn't it? Their 3D reality, their cosmos has been explained to them. So if someone says, no, that's all lies, it's all bullshit, mate, you need to wake up, then they feel very insulted.
Well, I'm not actually saying any of that sort of stuff. So that, once again, they're all reading all of this stuff in for it for themselves. I mean, just the fact of me saying that level is horizontal, like, it sends them into a tiz. It's like, it's crazy.
Well, listen to me. I try and say yes, but there's one definition where it doesn't mean that.
Yeah, I know.
Worst argument ever. Why do I bother?
You're trying to justify something for some little piece of your mind, just to hold on to something.
Yeah, it usually does. The original meaning.
So we've got some tests going as well, Dawn, for the water. So some scientific tests to get it as well.
Some tests.
Yeah, some good times. Like what we decided to do just recently is we get rid of all of the trolls and stuff, because it's useless an argument to argue with people who say circles are squares, and
it is, yeah.
So we've cut that out, and it's been pretty good. We're thinking of going live, at some point, and doing maybe a weekly show.
I actually like this meme that Turnip's done.
Which one?
You should probably have some cool hats on or something. like as if you're in the little society.
3 coplanar points on the level, 3 coplanar points on the level, 3 coplanar points, and bam, there's the, but look what I did here. I took a sample.
It's level and curved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 coplanar points on the level, 3 coplanar points on the level, 3 coplanar points, and bam, there's the, but look what I did here. I took a sample on the level.
It's level and curved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The result of doing what's called a 3 points, 3 coplanar points in 3D would describe a circle. And bam, there's the radius of the Earth.
If you enjoyed the content, please support On the Level and future projects. Membership subscriptions available now, or come and get involved at Next Level Discord server. Thank you.